We'll recap a year of change in Clarion University athletics. We'll also give our MVP and Coach of the Year awards for the season. Golden Eagles Live for the final time starts right now. And welcome to this final episode of Golden Eagles Live here on CUTV. Matt Catrillo here with you as always, and joining me, the guys that have been here all the way through the last, well, you for the last 4 years.
Yeah, what has he been?
The last
Don't
2
lump
years.
him into that.
But most of the way this year on the show. Alex Kazora, fresh from directing the news. Tyler DiGiacomo from anchoring the news with myself. So, guys, welcome back for the final time.
Yeah, sorry I'm not all dressed up, but
that's okay.
The life of the behind-the-scenes person.
That's right.
Glad to be back.
Doing all the dirty work. I'm glad to be back,
Glad you didn't send us a rundown for your final show.
That was my fault.
The last one.
No idea what we're talking about.
I'm just trying to hold back the tears because, you know, the last show and everything. But we'll worry about that later on in the show. So, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to recap all the sports that we've seen throughout the year. Again, a lot of change this year, a lot of head coaching moves in Clarion athletics. We'll start this block with the fall, and then we're going to go to the winter next block, and then the spring sports after that. So, starting off with the fall, guys, we'll start with volleyball, who had won 30 games this year in what was supposed to be a rebuilding year. Well, I think they did pretty darn good, winning 30 games, getting back to the NCAA tournament, #1 seed in the PSAC, hosted another playoff game here at Tippin Gym, unfortunately lost for the second straight year, but they still had a nice run into the Atlantic Regional tournament, and to the NCAA tournament as well. So thoughts on what we saw from the volleyball team and now going forward?
It's just incredible the standard that they've set, Matt, higher than probably any other team on this campus. And you talk about a rebuilding year, like you said, and it turned into a 30-win season. The only downside is, you know, you're trying to get over that playoff hump, and they haven't been able to do so so far. You're losing some key pieces like Laura Subject next year, so how do they respond from that? I anticipate them responding well, but you hate to see these playoff losses, kind of this one and done the last couple of years, get back to that Elite Eight.
Right, in terms of the PSAC playoffs
yeah.
and NCAA, they've been able to win a game. And I'll tell you what, though, what was said by Whitney Snodgrass, you saw my article in the Clarion Call, final edition last week, she said it herself. This team has very high expectations now from the administration to at least get to that Elite Eight or even win the whole thing. Now, Tyler, I know you've been there firsthand, seeing them in some of the off-season workouts and tournaments and stuff that they've been there. So, do you think they can get there within maybe the next 2 to 3 years, like as expected here?
Well, if you talk to Coach Mills herself, they have a long way to go. She was really on a bunch of the girls' butts this offseason, but that's because she cares about them and she sees the potential in them. But no, they're very good. I think they're by far one of the best programs here at Clarion. Got a bunch of girls coming next, or 4 new recruits. But as you said, they lose Laura Subject, who's a all-world setter. She was great off the court. And on the court, too. Numerous accolades. Still got Morgan Siebold back there as libero. Lose her next year, but she's a senior this year. I count on her and also Abby Cox, the 2 seniors on the team, to lead them. But it could be interesting. I know a couple teams in the PSAC have kind of dropped off. Be interested to see what happens.
Yeah, and that too. You have Taylor Bronigal as well, and Mackenzie Briggs. All those girls will have to really step it up next year that had really good years in their first year, freshman year. Other girls are coming back, too, from the bench. So we'll be looking forward to see what happens in volleyball in the next couple of years to come. And now let's go to football, as they are one of the teams that are moving in a new direction, bringing in Chris Weibel. They just hired their offensive coordinator yesterday as well, going forward with that. And a lot of questions for this team going forward, guys, as we've talked about numerous times. And obviously, switching over to Weibel and his new system, you know, the quarterback situation still far from being solved. Bring a lot of good recruits in, though. A lot of people from the Whitfield, from Pittsburgh, from Erie, even from Philadelphia as well. So I really like this team, the direction this team is going forward, but now they just have to prove it.
Yeah, this recruiting class, Matt, it's been phenomenal. A lot of guys from North Allegheny. I think they got 3 kids from NA, including, I think, a starting quarterback and a backup running back. So, you know, they had a really good recruiting class. Question's always a quarterback. Is Connor Simmons going to be the guy? It's not Darrell Carson anymore. Can Simmons be that guy, though? Until they answer that question, this team can't really move a whole lot farther.
Not only that, too, you have other guys that are in the fold that will be and have been redshirted. You have John Cadis from Clarion High School on that state championship team. He was redshirted this year. Curious to see how much he's built up. They just recruited Lane Ciccarelli from Union High School, who was a phenomenal quarterback for Union, and also can be a wingback and is very versatile. So I'm curious to see where that goes.
Also
Damian Slythe too from
Craddy.
Clarion. Jordan
He threw a
Craddy.
touchdown pass in the spring game.
Yeah. So you have him coming back. So a lot of questions at quarterback, but defensively too, you're losing a lot of key players, including Julian Howard. We've talked about him ad nauseum all offseason long as he gets ready for the NFL draft this weekend. We'll see what happens with him. Tyler, your thoughts on football?
Exactly, Alex. I think it's 27 recruits coming in or so. They had 19 on signing day. That's outstanding. A whole new regime trying to roll it, try to get a whole new player system in there. But that defense definitely will have to retool a little bit. But got Kwame Brown could be, talking about Clarion 2 years in a row. Could have another kid make it to the NFL. Kwame Brown, a Philadelphia guy. Near me, he looked outstanding so far this year. Kind of in the shadow of Julian Hauser. But this year, he's really going to explode on defensive line, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a monster, and I'm sure he'll be looked at and having brought him on the show earlier this year, will embrace that role, I'm sure, going into next year. And finally, for this block for the fall sports, we're going to go to women's soccer, as they also are in a new direction with new head coach Sean Esterhazen. 11 points only this season. That kind of struggled a little bit, but had a big year again from Laura Sasso, who will move on. So now there's a question at goalkeeper, which is pretty important in this sport. So, guys, questions at words going forward. We've seen Taylor Danya come in here and there, but Sasso clearly was the heart and soul of this team, kept him in a lot of games this year, and she was tops not only in the PSAC but in the NCAA Division II. So, Tom, I'm going to start with you. How did the Golden Eagles recover from losing Sasso next year at goalkeeper?
It'll be interesting to say that the team is pretty inexperienced and not that good compared to PSAC talent, but still good for themselves there. Not sure what's going to happen. Obviously, Laura Sasso kept them in a ton of games there. You talk about Taylor Danya, will not return to the team next year, so we'll have two freshmen battling. I think they're bringing in two freshmen next year. I forget where they're from, but the ballot out there. It'll be interesting to see, what happens, what Esterhazen does in his second season here at Clarion.
And quickly, Alex, I want to see scoring finally get going here and get that up to date and improve, because that has killed this team for all the years that we've been here. So your thoughts on what we might see from them?
Real plain and simple. Got to score goals. Like you said, Danya, she took the cross-country route, and freshman goaltender without a great offense. I think Esterhazen's going to have his work cut out for him for sure.
No question about that. And coming up next year on Golden Eagles Live, we'll switch to the winter season, break down the two basketball teams, some wrestling as well, swimming and diving, that and more next year on the final edition of Golden Eagles Live.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Thank you, dear. Well, you're very supple. Just like I was at your age. Back then, I was a sex expert. Used to call me the buttered biscuit. I know about birth control, too. So you can ask me anything, baby.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
Have you had sex in this car yet?
Welcome back to Golden Eagles Live here on CUTV. Matt Catrillo here with you, joined by Tyler DiGiacomo and Alex Cazor. We're recapping the year that was here in Clarion Athletics for this 2014-2015 season. Let's go now to the winter sports that we saw, guys. First, let's start with men's basketball. And I got to tell you, of all the change that's happened this year with this team, 10 wins for the first time in 2 years under first-year head coach Marcus Williams. I think this was the best job out of all the first-year head coaches. Alex, we'll start with you.
I agree, and we'll touch on that later as we get to kind of our MVP awards, kind of changing the culture and bringing some excitement, even if the record overall doesn't show it. It was tough without a true big I thought they would get killed on the glass, but they didn't. Darius Stevens, Kaim Hall did a great job there with B.J. Andrews as well. I think the arrow is pointing up. There's still a line from Mike Tomlin. Arrow pointing up with the men's basketball team.
No question about that. And my biggest thing is you saw the chemistry. You saw this team grow and love being together and playing together. The energy, like you talked about. That, to me, is what's going to move this team going forward. Tyler, your thoughts?
Same with volleyball. I was right there front and center with the basketball teams, men's and women's, being the PA announcer. But just coming in, just that energy. I'd love to see Marcus Williams have a full off season with his guys, because by the end of the season, 3/4 season, the team started buying it, started knowing the system, and started playing hard. They played hard for the full season, but started to understand what's going on. But they play with guys coming off the bench. Kaim Hall coming in a transfer. Darius Stevens, who was Coach Williams' prototypical player that he calls them. B.J. Andrews had a slow start to the season, played outstanding. The whole team played very well. It's interesting to see what happens next year. A couple different changes, but definitely moving up.
Just tone setters, Matt D'Amico and Cameron Grumley.
Oh, yeah,
who
absolutely.
Scott over there knows well. Those guys weren't maybe the best players on the court, but they had hard. Grumley jumped on a dude's back the one game.
Yeah.
Just give you an idea who Cameron
both
Grumley
very
is.
aggressive players.
Yeah, you love that. You love that.
Yeah, and as Wendy Snodgrass, the associate athletic director, said to me the other day, you never. It's been a while since you see the coach chest bumping players. I mean, it's just so fun to be around that team this year, and hope to see them get. And again, they were in the playoff run too late in the season, so hopefully they change that into a playoff berth for the first time in quite some time next year in men's basketball. Let's go to women's basketball now, as unfortunately they finished with only 2 wins this year under first head coach Jenna Ashley. Of course, they lost Hannah Heater right in the beginning, in the middle of the season with the torn ACL, so that was a big loss because obviously she's been the heart and soul of this team. But they do get some bright individual players this year, with Tanea Holmes finally stepping up as one of the top scorers in the PSAC. So I'm just curious to give you guys take. Todd, we'll start with you on where you see this team going forward.
Oh, I don't know. They got a pretty long road to go. Coach Ashley's, actually got a bunch of recruits coming in. But he said Tanea Holmes was very good. Derica Jones-Carey was very good. They're not Hannah Heater going down December 16th, missed a bunch of games there. Jen Straw came in, filled a little bit. Carrie Story, a little true freshman, actually came in, filled a little bit. But just no real bigs. Tanea Holmes and Derica Jones-Carey, very good. But he said really depleted and only played 7 girls most of the time. So Coach Ashley's got a very long way to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. Just the talent's not there. I think you saw that a lot this year. Jasmine Boyd didn't come out the way they wanted to. Misha Harden-Polium, to me, I thought had a very disappointing freshman year. There was a lot of expectations on her. Granted, that can change. She had a lot of turnover issues she needs to correct. So, Alex, will get your thoughts in here now.
Just real quick, I echo Tyler's thoughts. How do you replace a double-double that Heater gave you? And Straw, I thought, had some good games, but she's not on that level. So, how do you replace the production Hannah Heater gave her? It's very difficult. Not one person, obviously.
And then just real quick, you personally feel for Hannah Heater. Great play here. Would have probably broken a bunch more records here. I think she was like 10 rebounds from 5th all-time or so. Just disappointing personally for Hannah Heater.
She did break the 1,000 career mark in points, so that was good at least to see. That was about the second or third game into the season. So coming up next here on Golden Eagles Live, we'll go to the spring sports and recap baseball and softball that just ended yesterday and over the weekend, a little track and field, and that and more coming up next here on CUTV.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to Golden Eagles Live here on CUTV. Matt Catrillo here with you with Tyler DiGiacomo and Alex Kozora. As we move into the spring sports, guys, let's go to wrestling now, as that was a brutal year for them. Only one win this season, getting clobbered basically in every match that they were in. They don't have anybody go to the NCAAs. Of course, they lose Nick Abasi this year in that tragic car accident. Keith Ferrero comes in as the interim, and then now the full-time head coach after Troy Letters leaves 2 weeks before the season started. So overall, we talked about this with Coach when he came on the show a few weeks ago, just how the guys were able to respond from that and at least get a few positive individuals' performances going at the end of the season.
Yeah, there's a couple freshmen that would be excited about. Zackrell, Evan Daly at a heavyweight, not a freshman, and I think Keith Ferrero can be the guy. But man, you lose Arthur, you lose Matthews, you lose your head coach Letters. Where do you go from there? So that's the really difficult part there. And I'll just wonder out loud, how much longer will this team stay D1? I know I don't like talking about that, but I mean, with the travel and as if the wins aren't there, and I mean, just a thought. I don't know if they will.
I mean,
or not,
the stability's not there to be a good, consistent, and competitive.
I don't want to say that
Division
it's not there.
program.
It's just if this lull continues, that could be a thought.
No,
With
I think it's
the
very legitimate
budget
to ask.
crunch, you know how things work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens with them. And at least one positive note from wrestling. Yeah, Ryan Darsh finishing at one. He was going back and forth. He finished at 197, second place in EWL. So that was good to see him finish off in his senior year. So let's go now to the national champion divers we saw this year, and Kristen Day, Colin Vest repeating at the 1 and 3 meters. Kristen Day obviously finishing up her wonderful career here at Clarion and also academically as well. A really good student too. Colin Vest, back-to-back championships in his first 2 seasons as a collegiate diver. I think that is very impressive. Tyler, we'll start with you.
Not much you can say. That unfortunately, from a media standpoint, we don't give much love to swimmers and divers. That's a great program too. Talk about volleyball. That's a very notable program. But their head coach, Dave Horvat, been here with 25 years and has won the Coach of the Year all 25 years. The award should be named after him. But each year he has All-American after All-American, national champion after national champion. That swimming and diving program, the diving program especially, is bar none. It's very, very good. One of the best, well-respected diving programs in all Division II in all the country.
I think he's got a total of 43 All-Americans that he's coached. And, of course, Dave Horvat has been here a number of years, Mark Van Dyke, the swimming coach, who's done a great job, too. He's been here for a good 10, 15 years, and he's done a great job with that program as well. He's Emily Geisingam have a nice year again for the Golden Eagles as well. She heads into her senior year next year. So now let's go to the spring sports, guys, and we'll go to baseball as they finish with 8 wins for the second straight season. They showed some signs of life this year. Tyler Falk leading the way individually, carrying that 15-game hit streak that was snapped last weekend in the losses against Cal U. So you guys' thoughts on the improvements you saw this year? Pitching really wasn't that there. Hitting, you did see that. But still, this team has a little bit of ways to go in order to get where we want them to see them in the future. We'll start with Alex.
That's pretty much my line of thinking, Matt, is that the hitting is better. Tyler Falk offensively, I thought was a power bat. Harold Delball did as well. But the pitching staff's ERA was still over 10. Anytime you have that happen. And I know the IUP game skewed at 30 runs is going to do that to you in a small field, but still.
But you came up 30 runs
in
the game.
And an ERA of 10, regardless of circumstance, is unacceptable.
I mean, we're talking baby steps here, and they've done that, but
there's progress.
There is, but you can't have even one game of when you're giving up runs 20 plus. I mean, especially at this level, it's just unacceptable. You have to be able to not be able to do that. And of course, fielding errors were a big concern too. About 55 of them this year. Pitching we talked about. So Tyler, get your thoughts now on baseball.
Well, coming from somebody who's played baseball and coached and umpired at a high level, with all the rainouts and cancellations, I'm not sure who pitched that game. That's really straining your pitching staff when you're not fully funded. They're about $2,500 total for 25-plus guys. There's only maybe a handful of guys who actually get scholarship money. A bunch of the guys are here just for the love of the game. But that's not an excuse right there. Guys are playing well. Just in general, pitching staff. Kay McCall, who had outstanding freshman year last year, didn't pitch that well this year. I saw Sean White pitch this past weekend against Cal. He was hit or miss. He pitched very well over the weekend. So just, Coach Mike Brown, just doing the best he can here. But the team, hopefully will get back up there. But even with that, it's a long way to go to compete with the other teams that are fully funded in this conference.
And softball, as we go to them now, going with the similar situation, not fully funded, part-time head coach. They just got and finished the first year with new head coach Cheryl Peterson. So same situation, not being able to play on the field, dealing with the weather, facilities aren't there, and it shows in the play. Now, they took a step forward, getting 6 wins this year, 5 conference wins for the first time since 2010. So at least you have to give that on a positive note. So, Alex, we'll start with you.
Yeah, just trying to figure out how the softball team can improve. Again, we've mentioned it before, make Cheryl Peterson a full-time coach. Please, if we're going to have the athletic task force and say we're going to put more money into athletics and then you give me a part-time coach, that seems pretty hypocritical to me and counterintuitive if you want to make this program better. I think I'd love to get a third pitcher because really you had Crago and Paige Baker. And
Crago's gone.
And Crago's gone. Because I'd love 2 new pitchers that can be, give you a lot of innings and then some better offense as well.
Paige Baker pitched very well in the loss against Cal
Just the whole
yesterday.
season she did.
Yeah. And I think she was second in team ERA to Shauna Crago, which was 5.11. Of course, we're just talking about that with baseball. Your highest team or your lowest team ERA can't be 5.11. It's got to be a lot lower than that to be competitive. They face a Cal U team. Now, granted, they're way above everybody else in the conference right now. They got people on Team Canada. Their team ERA coming into yesterday was 183. So, but you got to get at least somewhere in the 3 or 4.
They hung with Cal.
They did, which is very impressive. They're facing the pitcher in Alex Sagel, who no-hit them the first time around, and they needed that to get first place in the PSAC West as the tournament starts this week. And Tyler, we'll go to you now.
No, I'll be real quick. They lose a lot of stalwarts. There are 5 seniors. You're losing Crago and Chelsea Zola, your 1-2 pitcher there. Losing your right fielder and Lydia Middahl. Had a pretty good career here, but led by leadership there. Losing your second baseman, Ashley Baranchik. Losing your first baseman, Taylor Powell. So you're losing a lot of key pieces on here. A lot of younger girls, freshman, sophomore, played a lot this year. Bring back Casey Wilcox, sophomore shortstop. Hopefully, Coach Pearson brings a nice recruiting class in. And they're moving up a little bit. They've definitely played well. So see what goes from there. But again, they kind of have a long way to go once again in this PSAC.
And with Shauna Crago and Lydia Middahl, you saw a couple nice storybook innings. Lydia Middahl hitting 3 home runs the last couple of weeks. She hadn't hit a home run in her 17-year career in high school and college. Same with Shauna Crago as well on senior day last week. So let's go to track and field now, as they had, for them in the last couple of years, a little bit of a down year. A lot of young talent. DJ Bavino now has moved over to the full-time track and field coach. You have Eric Lachlan coming in next year as a cross-country coach for the fall. So, guys, they lose Kristen Belko this year after her phenomenal career. So, your thoughts? We'll start with Alex on where you want to see this team make that next step.
Yeah, just maybe get back to where they were at, but they set the bar really high. They have some good talent. Katie Chambers, Tatiana Cloud, those kind of players. So, I think they'll get back. They're just good, stable, and effective coaching. That's what you need. That's what they have.
And Finksler, too, had a nice, strong ending for the track and field team. Tyler, your thoughts?
Exactly what Alex said. Over the weekend, here once again, I saw freshman Summer Murray come in with the shot put. She played very well. As you said, Kristen Belko, very, very good. She's going to probably break some more records in her events. So track team, again, looking pretty good. Haven't been outside that much with the weather. Weather's starting to get nice right now. But again, they're a team that's always very good for Clarion once again.
And finally, we go to tennis, who had a 7-0 start to the year, and then, guys, they end up finishing 8-9. And again, a lot of that came from facing the tougher competition. Didn't really show up to par on that tough end of the year. Sorry, no offense to Caitlin Mulligan, who's directing my show. Hopefully she won't do anything weird to get back at me for that. But Alex, let's start with you on tennis. What do you want to see from them? Losing a lot of seniors, too.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to replace some of the top-level people and just show, more competitiveness. But again, it feels like these teams, they recruit from all over the world, and Clarion recruits from basically its backyard. It feels like a disadvantage from the get-go, honestly.
I don't know how you compete with that. I mean, I'm not a recruiter. A lot of the stuff we say that they had to improve is easier said than done. I mean, Cal's got foreign players, IUP does too. It's tough.
Yeah, girls are from like Russia and Venezuela and Mexico, and you're like, where do you
some
find
countries I
these
haven't even
people?
heard of.
Oh, because you don't like science.
That would be geography. Well, actually, I like geography, but anyway.
You don't like most things that are important.
Anyways, talk about the Clarion girls in general. Lose a lot of seniors, a lot of your singles and doubles players. Megan Betwee, Maddie Robinson, Lauren Zazinski, 3 of your top point getters, match winners. So once again, it can be tough. A lot of young people on the team. Caitlin Mulligan had a very good freshman season. Not because she's just here. Jessica Kennelly had a very good season. So a lot of young talent right there, and the coach got to bring some more people in.
Well, we go to our final block now here on the final edition of Golden Eagles Live coming up next. And before we say goodbye and we shed a couple tears, we'll get to our Coach of the Year awards and our MVP awards for the fall, winter, and spring seasons coming up next on the final edition of Golden Eagles Live.
You make me wear my bike helmet. You taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
to always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Folks, why won't we go to the doctor? My uncle called, speech all slurred, complaining his arms numb. He called everyone. He even called my daughter Tiara, because, you know, she's got a year of nursing. Everyone thinks he needs to go to the doctor, including me. So he said, well, will you take me? I'm like, I'm on the road. He goes, I'll wait. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love have symptoms of stroke, don't wait. It may be too late. Dial 911. Time loss is brain loss.
And welcome back to Golden Eagles Live here on CUTV. Matt Catrillo here with you with Tyler DeGiacomo and Alex Kozora. The final block of the final edition of the show. So first, before we do our final goodbyes and all that, we're going to go to our MVP and Coaches Award, Coach of the Year awards, excuse me, for the fall, winter, and spring. Tyler, I'm going to start with you. Throw us your MVPs and then your Coach of the Year overall.
All right, get the honors here. If they can throw up the graphic here, my fall MVP, Laura Subject, as I said, the all-world setter there for volleyball. She's outstanding on the court and off the court. Winter, Kristen Day, as you said, outstanding career, a bunch of All-American nods, bunch of gold medal nods there. And for spring, Shauna Craig, it's a great story, outstanding here last year and this year. Great on the field, off the field. One of the nicest people you ever meet, honestly. She's great. And my Coach of the Year, I was going back and forth. I wasn't going with Coach Horvat of Diamond, but went with Jen Mills, kind of biased. Outstanding program she got going there. Everyone's moving up, and they got some big, big things coming up for them in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, Tyler. No question about it. She's been probably one of the more successful coaches aside of Dave Horvat. So I like the picks there. I think all the players are well deserving. So Alex, we'll go to you.
Yeah, we'll see the graphic here as well for my MVP. And Laura Sossel for the fall. Again, I think you'll see how much value she brought when you miss her so much next year. Kaheem Hall for men's basketball. I thought he was a guy that played a lot taller, kind of reminded me of Paul McQueen, a guy that took over some games. And then for the spring, Megan Betwee, just watching her play a couple of times, how dominant she was and how competitive she was against some tough opponents. And then my coach, Marcus Williams, just for, like I said earlier, changing the culture, I think, of Clarion men's basketball. And that's the first step in turning this team around.
I like that pick a lot. You know, somebody who may not have had a winning record, but out of all the first-year head coaches, like we said, had the best season out of them all to start off their tenure here at Clarion. So I really loved that pick. Kaheem Hall was great. Laura Sossel, I think, and if you're talking about anybody is more valuable to their team, maybe aside of Hannah Heater, women's basketball, definitely Laura Sossel. So let's go to mine now for MVPs and Coach of the Year. And we'll start with the fall. I got Julian Hauser for football. No surprise there. Great all-around player, defense, special teams. The reason why he's probably will be on an NFL roster. Hopefully, I'll add to that as well. Winter, Colin Vest for diving. I'm just impressed that he's won back-to-back national championships in his first 2 years. That's just really impressive. Spring, Tyler Falk for baseball. I think he had a magnificent year with Clarion after winning the PSC Freshman of the Year, and then had the 15-game hit streak that topped Clarion record. And then my Coach of the Year, Tyler, I know I went back and forth with Jen Mills and Dave Horvat too. I ultimately went with Dave Horvat just because he's been here as we talked about for 25 years. He's got 43 All-Americans. He's coached multiple national champions. You add Vest and then you add Kristen Day to that list. And I think that's just incredible to have that amount of success and for a long stability of time. And that's really the only sport left here in Clarion that you have that kind of consistency. So I think that's good to see going forward, someone to leave off of that. So as we're in our final minute now of the show, I want to thank Alex and Tyler for being a part of the show this year. Alex, of course, we go way back. Mentioning Paul McQueen was nice. He was one of our players from freshman year.
You're welcome.
I remember when we met playing poker in our dorm in Wilkinson, which will be not being knocked down pretty soon.
Okay, we're getting really positive vibes here. Thank you.
And then we started Football Friday on the radio, which we're going to do our final episode on Friday on 91.7 FM. And then we came over to here to TV, started sports anchoring. You co-hosted OTB with Don Walker. I was on Sports Night, what this show used to be called with Ian Hunter, and then when Ian graduated 2 years ago, I took it over for him, and it's been a lot of fun. So I want to thank you for all the great times we've had, great friendship over the last 4 years.
Yeah, 2 things. I beat you in poker.
Yes, you did.
You're welcome, my brother.
All right. And Tyler, you came into our wing the last 2 years. We taught you everything you needed to know, but you've just absolutely blossomed, I must say. I don't know. And also my Philadelphia wingman over there. It's been a lot of fun, and we appreciate all you've done here for both sides, sports and news. He produced the whole newscast tonight too, so
with the
thank
help
you, Tyler.
of Chloe
with
everybody else. I'm not going to take that. But I'll shake your hand too, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, yep, that was so bad.
So thank you guys very much, and also now I'll go my final thank you. So I want to thank all the coaches and players for being a part of the show, coming down in studio, just talking, just keeping everybody updated with everything. To Athletic Director Dave Kadis, Associate Athletic Director Wendy Snodgrass for all their cooperation, for all the games we've done, all the interviews we've done here. To all the faculty here at Clarion University, thank you so much for everything. All the past seniors, I know they'll eventually watch us on YouTube. Ian Hunter especially for letting me take over the show 2 years ago. Kevin Zambori, Drew Carpin, all those guys, thank you so much for teaching me everything that I know. All my classmates here at CUTV, Tyler, Alex, Chloe, our news director, Lauren Healy, Dylan Hyman, everybody else that I mentioned. Paige Newcomb does a great job down here, keeping everything set. All our new freshmen this year, thank you for coming down for crew every week. You guys, I know the station will be in good hands for next year. Thank my parents as well for always supporting me in everything that I do. And I just want to wish everybody the best of luck with the show next year and with the station. So just really, I'm really proud of everything we've done the last 4 years. So thank you to everybody for that. And so for the final time, have an Eagle-tastic night. This has been Golden Eagles Live.